The command center of the Stellar Dominion warship hummed with activity. Screens displayed data from across the galaxy. Officers moved with purpose, checking reports and preparing for their next mission. Admiral Tay stood at the center of it all. His tall, slender form towered over the other aliens. His skin had a faint blue glow that pulsed with his heartbeats. 4 eyes scanned multiple data streams simultaneously as he considered their next target. "Admiral, the final reports on Planet E3 are ready," Captain June announced, approaching the war table. Admiral Tay turned his attention to his trusted second-in-command. Captain June's red uniform marked him as part of the invasion force's elite command team. "Show me," Tay ordered. Captain June placed a thin tablet on the table. It immediately projected a spinning hologram of Earth, blue oceans, and green landmasses rotating slowly before them. "This planet holds more valuable resources than any we've encountered in this sector," June explained. "The water alone would fetch a high price, but the mineral deposits and biological diversity make it a true prize." Tay studied the projection with growing interest. The Dominion had conquered 17 worlds in the past cycle, but none as promising as this one. "What about the inhabitants?" he asked. Science Officer Hyun stepped forward. Her 6-fingered hands moved gracefully over her own tablet, changing the hologram to show various Earth creatures: elephants, tigers, whales, and finally, humans. "The dominant species calls themselves humans," Hyun reported. "They've spread across the planet and built civilizations. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, though advancing quickly." "They look fragile," noted Tay, zooming in on a human figure. "No natural defenses at all?" "None that our scans detect," confirmed Hyun. "No armor, no venom, no significant physical strength. They rely entirely on tools and machines." Captain June looked puzzled. "But our environmental analysis classifies E3 as a death world. How do these weak creatures survive there?" The hologram shifted again, showing Earth's varied environments: frozen poles, burning deserts, dense jungles, and stormy oceans. "That's what makes this planet so unusual," Hyun said. "The gravity is 1.3 times our homeworld standard. The atmosphere contains elements toxic to most spacefaring species. Temperature variations would kill unprotected members of our kind in hours. And the wildlife," added another officer from across the room. "The planet teems with predators that would be considered apex threats on any normal world." Admiral Tay studied the images of Earth's deadliest animals: sharks, bears, lions, and more. "Yet these humans have become the dominant species despite having no natural advantages? It defies explanation," admitted Hyun. "Our best theory is that they've developed their technology specifically to overcome their physical limitations. They likely rarely venture beyond their protected cities and settlements." Admiral Tay considered this information carefully. The Stellar Dominion had built its empire by identifying valuable worlds and taking them from weaker species. This planet offered exceptional rewards. "What is their military capability?" Tay asked. Captain June brought up new images showing Earth's weapons and defenses. "Primitive projectile weapons, mostly. No energy shields, no space fleet worth mentioning. They've barely ventured beyond their own moon. They've never encountered other intelligent life," added Hyun. "They would have no defense against our technology." Admiral Tay made his decision. "This will be an easy conquest. A species so weak, surviving on environmental support systems, will surrender quickly when faced with our power." He turned to address the entire command center. "Begin preparations for full invasion. We'll secure the most resource-rich areas first. Captain June, prepare a small reconnaissance team to gather final intelligence before the main fleet arrives." "How many warships should we deploy, Admiral?" asked the fleet commander. Tay considered. "A minimal force. Perhaps 3 battlecruisers. No need to waste resources on such weak opponents." "And the humans themselves?" asked Hyun. "What shall be their fate?" "The usual options," Tay replied casually. "Those who surrender may serve in the labor colonies. The rest?" He made a dismissive gesture with his long fingers. No one in the command center questioned the order. The Dominion had eliminated troublesome species before. It was simply the way of the universe. The strong claimed what they wanted from the weak. "Send the scout team immediately," ordered Tay. "I want boots on the ground within one rotation. Let's see these fragile humans up close before we take their world." As the officers hurried to carry out his commands, Admiral Tay took one last look at the holographic Earth. Such a beautiful, valuable world. Soon it would belong to the Dominion, and these weak humans would be just another conquered species in their expanding empire. The small reconnaissance pod cut through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology hiding it from human detection systems. It looked like a smooth, dark teardrop as it descended into a dense forest in the northern region of the landmass humans called North America. The craft settled silently among tall pine trees. Its outer shell shifted color to match the surrounding vegetation. Steam hissed as the entry hatch opened, releasing the pressure difference between the pod's interior and Earth's atmosphere. Scout Leader Day was the first to emerge. His environmental suit completely covered his body, its material constantly adjusting to protect him from what his species considered extreme conditions. The helmet's transparent front showed his gray skin and large, reflective eyes that blinked vertically instead of horizontally. "Sensors online. Beginning atmospheric analysis," Day said, his voice coming through the team's communication system. He took a careful step onto Earth soil. Gravity reading confirmed at 1.3 times our homeworld. Movement will require additional energy expenditure. Behind him, 3 more figures emerged from the pod. They wore identical suits but with different colored markings to identify their roles. Scout June, the team's security specialist, immediately began scanning the perimeter with a handheld device that looked like a small silver rod. "Setting security perimeter," June announced, placing small disc-shaped objects at regular intervals around their landing site. "These will alert us if any large creatures approach." Scout Mina, the team's biologist, was already engrossed in readings from her scanner. The device projected holographic images of various life forms detected in their vicinity. "This ecosystem is remarkably dense with life," she reported with clear excitement in her voice. "I'm registering over 300 distinct species within a 1-kilometer radius alone." Her scanner projected images of deer, wolves, bears, and countless smaller creatures. Many of these would be classified as dangerous predators on any normal world. The large ursine creatures could tear through our environmental suits with ease. The 4th team member, Scout Quan, was their civilization specialist. He unfolded a hovering workstation that projected a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding 50 kilometers. "Human settlement detected 22 kilometers northeast," he reported. "Population approximately 12,000. I'm also detecting smaller human dwellings scattered throughout the wilderness." Day moved to examine Quan's map. "Interesting. Their habitations show minimal defensive capabilities. No energy shields, no automated defense systems, not even basic barrier walls in many cases. How do they survive with such deadly wildlife nearby?" June asked, his hand resting on his sidearm as he watched the forest around them warily. "Perhaps they rarely leave their settlements," suggested Mina. Day directed the team to establish their observation post. They efficiently unpacked equipment from the pod, setting up sensors and communications devices. Within an hour, their temporary base was operational, virtually invisible to human detection methods. "Begin standard observation protocol," Day ordered. "We have 3 Earth days to gather intelligence before reporting back to the fleet." The scouts worked through the night, their bodies not requiring sleep like humans. They monitored wildlife patterns, analyzed plant samples, and intercepted human communications from the nearby town. "Their communication technology is primitive but effective," noted Quan, listening to radio signals. "Most information exchange happens through a global network they call the Internet. They seem obsessed with sharing images of small animals they keep in their dwellings." "Keeping predators as companions?" June asked incredulously. "What strange creatures?" As morning approached, Mina's sensors detected movement. "Something large is approaching from the south. Moving at steady pace." The team activated their personal cloaking devices, becoming nearly invisible against the forest backdrop. They watched as a human figure emerged from between the trees. "A lone human," whispered Day, fascination evident in his voice. "Walking casually through apex predator territory." The human was male, tall by Earth standards, wearing simple clothing in earth tones and carrying a backpack. He moved with confidence through the forest, occasionally stopping to examine plants or take photographs. "No protective gear," observed June, "no visible weapons." "Is he suicidal?" "This is unexpected," Day admitted. "Our intelligence suggested humans would avoid dangerous natural environments." The team watched as the human found a small clearing beside a stream and began setting up what appeared to be a temporary camp. He worked methodically, setting up a small shelter, gathering wood for a fire, and filtering water from the stream. Perfect opportunity for close observation, Day decided. "We'll monitor this specimen and learn how humans survive in these conditions." As the scouts settled in to watch, none of them realized they were about to witness something that would change the fate of both their species forever. The 4 alien scouts huddled behind their cloaking shields, watching the human with growing fascination. They had positioned themselves on a small ridge overlooking the clearing where the human had made camp. Their advanced observation equipment allowed them to see every detail without being detected. "I still don't understand," whispered June, adjusting his scanner. "Why would a human come out here alone?" The human male appeared to be in his 30s. He had set up a simple tent near a clear stream and was now gathering stones to build a fire ring. His movements were efficient and practiced. Mina focused her bioscanner on him. "His heart rate is steady. No signs of stress or fear. He seems completely comfortable in this environment." "Impossible," muttered Quan. "Our data indicates this region has 17 different predator species that could easily kill an unarmored human." Day zoomed in with his visual enhancer. "Look at his equipment. A fabric shelter, some food containers, a primitive cutting tool, and a wooden walking stick. No energy weapons, no defensive barriers, not even a proper communication device for emergencies." The human finished arranging his campsite and began preparing food. He used a simple metal pot to boil water from the stream and added dried ingredients from his pack. "Perhaps he's an outcast," suggested June, "banished from human society as punishment?" "No," disagreed Quan, checking his cultural database. "His equipment matches recreational patterns. Humans call this camping or backpacking. They do this by choice." The scouts fell silent, trying to make sense of a species that would willingly expose themselves to such danger without protection. Suddenly, Mina's scanner began flashing a warning. "Large life form approaching from the east. Mass approximately 400 kilograms." The scouts tensed, their attention shifting to the forest edge. Something large was moving through the underbrush, heading directly toward the human's camp. "Ursine predator," confirmed Mina as her scanner identified the creature. "Apex predator of this region." Through the trees emerged a massive brown bear. It stood on all fours at first, sniffing the air, then rose to its full height on its hind legs. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, its powerful form blocked out the afternoon sun. "The human doesn't see it yet," whispered Day, a strange feeling of dread coursing through him. Their mission was to observe, not interfere, but he found himself instinctively reaching for his weapon. The bear dropped back to all fours and moved toward the camp, drawn by the smell of the human's food. When it was about 20 meters away, it released a deep, rumbling growl. The human spun around, finally noticing the massive predator. The scouts expected panic, screaming, and attempt to flee. Instead, the human calmly set down his cooking pot and reached for his walking stick. "Is he going to fight?" gasped June in disbelief. "That's suicide." "The human is doomed," stated Quan flatly, already preparing to document the death for their report. What happened next left all 4 scouts speechless. The human stepped forward, making himself visible to the bear. He raised his arms high, wooden stick in one hand, making himself appear larger. Then he began shouting, not in fear, but in a commanding tone. "Hey! Get out of here! Go on! Get!" The bear hesitated, seemingly confused by this behavior. It growled again, louder this time, and took a step forward. The human didn't retreat. Instead, he struck his stick against the ground hard, creating a sharp cracking sound. He continued shouting and making himself appear as threatening as possible. "He's not running," whispered Mina in amazement. "He's challenging the predator." The standoff continued for nearly a minute. Then, with a roar, the bear charged. The scouts collectively held their breath, certain they were about to witness the human's death. But the human displayed reflexes they hadn't thought possible. He waited until the last moment, then sidestepped with surprising speed. As the bear's momentum carried it past, the human struck it precisely behind the ear with his stick. The blow wasn't powerful enough to seriously injure the bear, but it was perfectly placed to cause pain. The bear turned, swiping with massive claws. The human dodged again, but not fast enough to avoid a glancing blow to his arm. The scout's scanners detected the human's skin tearing, blood beginning to flow. "He's injured," reported Mina. But his vital signs aren't showing severe distress. Despite the wound, the human maintained his aggressive stance. He continued shouting, making sudden movements, and striking the ground with his stick. The bear made 2 more charges, but each time the human evaded the worst of the attack while landing his own precise blows. After several tense minutes, the bear suddenly stopped. It seemed to reassess the situation, deciding this strange prey wasn't worth the effort. With a final huffing growl, it turned and lumbered back into the forest. The scouts watched in stunned silence as the human lowered his stick. He was breathing heavily, blood trickling down his arm from the bear's claw marks. But instead of panic or distress, their scanners detected only slightly elevated stress levels. The human walked to his pack, pulled out a small container, and began cleaning his wounds. His movements were calm and methodical, as if being attacked by a massive predator was a minor inconvenience rather than a near-death experience. "That's not possible," whispered June, checking his scanner to confirm what he'd just witnessed. "A creature that size should have torn him apart." "Did you see his technique?" Day asked, voice filled with newfound respect. "He didn't try to overpower the predator. He used its size against it. And he knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect," added Mina. They continued watching as the human bandaged his wound, then calmly returned to preparing his meal as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "We need to report this immediately," Day decided, his earlier assumptions about humans completely shattered. "The Invasion Council needs to see this." The command center of the Stellar Dominion flagship had never been so quiet. Usually filled with the sounds of officers working, conversations about invasion strategies, and the hum of equipment, now everyone stood frozen, eyes fixed on the main display screen. The footage from Scout Team Alpha played for the 3rd time. The massive bear charging. The seemingly fragile human standing his ground. The incredible speed and precision of the human's movements. The bear's retreat. "Impossible," breathed Science Officer Hyun, her 4 eyes widened in disbelief. The human survived with primitive tools against a predator twice its size. Admiral Tay stood motionless, his tall frame rigid with tension. His skin had lost its usual blue glow, fading to a pale gray that indicated extreme stress among his species. "Play it again," he ordered. The footage restarted. This time, Tay paid careful attention to the human's vital signs that Scout Mina had recorded during the encounter. Heart rate elevated but controlled. Stress hormones present but not at panic levels. Muscle responses faster than their models had predicted possible. "Sir, Scout Leader Day is requesting permission to send more detailed reports," announced the communications officer. "Granted," Tay replied without taking his eyes off the screen. "I want everything they've observed." Captain June approached cautiously. "Admiral, this is just one human. Perhaps an outlier? A specially trained warrior?" Tay turned to Science Officer Hyun. "Analysis?" Hyun shook her head. The scout team included background data. "This human's identification matches civilian records. Not military. Not security forces. Just an ordinary human engaging in recreational activity." "Recreational," echoed June in disbelief. "Fighting apex predators is their idea of recreation?" Admiral Tay made a quick decision. Expand our surveillance. Deploy all remaining scout teams. I want data on human capabilities in all environments. Mountains, oceans, deserts, everything. Focus on ordinary civilians, not their military forces. The command center burst into activity. Within hours, 20 more scout pods were launched toward Earth, each targeting different regions and ecosystems. Over the next several days, reports flooded back to the command ship. Each new piece of information further dismantled their understanding of humans. In the Arctic regions, humans plunged into freezing waters that would kill a Dominion soldier in minutes. Their bodies somehow adapted, allowing them to swim through ice floes. In mountains with thin air that should cause brain damage, humans climbed sheer rock faces with minimal equipment, sometimes using only their bare hands and feet. Falls that would shatter alien bones seemed to result in only minor injuries for humans. Desert reconnaissance showed humans surviving in temperatures that would cook the internal organs of most species, their bodies efficiently conserving water in ways that defied explanation. Jungle teams reported humans navigating through regions filled with venomous creatures, parasites, and diseases, emerging unharmed through a combination of knowledge and physical resilience. Most disturbing were the combat capabilities. Humans practicing what they called martial arts displayed strength, speed, and endurance far beyond what their physical forms suggested possible. Admiral Tay called an emergency meeting after reviewing the fifth day of reports. The ship's senior officers gathered around the war table, their earlier confidence completely evaporated. "They're not what we thought," Tay began, his voice grave. "Not even close." He activated the holographic display, showing images from across Earth. Humans running extreme distances through punishing terrain. Humans lifting weights many times their body mass. Humans enduring injuries that would be fatal to Dominion soldiers, then recovering completely. "Their technological development isn't because they're frail," explains Science Officer Hyun. "It's in spite of their natural abilities. They don't need protection from their environment, they conquered it without technology." Captain June studied the new data with growing alarm. "How did we misunderstand so completely?" "We made assumptions based on our own evolutionary path," Hyun replied. "Our species evolved on a gentle world with few threats. We developed technology before we faced serious environmental challenges." She pointed to new images of human skeletal and muscular systems. Humans evolved the other way around. Their entire biology is designed for survival in extreme conditions. Dense bones. Efficient cooling systems. Incredible endurance. Rapid healing. Admiral Tay zoomed in on footage of human children playing in what looked like dangerously rough games, falling, getting hurt, and continuing without serious distress. "They're not weak technological dependents," realized Tay with growing horror. "They're apex predators evolved on a death world. Their entire planet is a survival crucible we can't comprehend." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The Stellar Dominion had conquered 17 worlds, all inhabited by species that had evolved in relatively gentle environments similar to their own. None had offered significant resistance. Humans were something entirely different. "What's most concerning," added Hyun, bringing up new images, "is their psychological makeup. They seek out danger voluntarily. They deliberately test their limits. Their entertainment often involves simulated combat or survival scenarios." The display showed humans engaged in various sports and activities that seemed pointlessly dangerous, climbing mountains without safety equipment, diving into deep ocean caves, racing vehicles at lethal speeds. "A species that evolved to not just survive but thrive on a death world," murmured Tay. "A species that finds enjoyment in danger." He straightened up, his decision made. "Contact all scout teams. I want full reports within 12 hours. We need to completely reassess our invasion plans." As the officers dispersed to carry out his orders, Admiral Tay remained at the war table, staring at the holographic image of Earth rotating slowly before him. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something unfamiliar, doubt about the outcome of an invasion. The Grand Council chamber of the Stellar Dominion flagship was filled to capacity. High-ranking officers from every ship in the invasion fleet had gathered for this urgent meeting. Tension filled the air as Admiral Tay walked to the central platform. Behind him, the massive display screen showed the blue-green planet that had been their target just days ago. Now, that same planet was the source of growing concern. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," Admiral Tay began. His voice was steady, but those who knew him well could detect the underlying tension. "What I am about to share will change our understanding of the species known as humans." He activated the control panel at his fingertips. The screen shifted to show a series of images and video clips. Humans climbing frozen waterfalls. Humans jumping from flying vehicles with only thin fabric to slow their fall. Humans riding enormous waves that could crush a small spacecraft. Humans don't just survive on their death world, they seek out its most dangerous environments for recreation, he explained. These activities, which they call extreme sports, are done purely for enjoyment. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the assembled officers. "That can't be accurate," called out one commander from the back. "No sentient species would risk death for amusement." "The evidence is conclusive," replied Tay. "Our scouts have gathered thousands of hours of footage. Humans regularly engage with deadly environments by choice." Captain June stepped forward to join the admiral. "Their physical resilience exceeds anything we've encountered," he added, bringing up medical data on the screen. "Their bodies can repair substantial damage. They can survive losing limbs, significant blood loss, and continue fighting." The screen showed humans with prosthetic limbs competing in athletic events, their faces showing determination rather than distress. "One human subject survived having his heart stop for 6 minutes, continued June. Another continued fighting despite multiple bone fractures. They call this adrenaline response. Their bodies actually become stronger when injured or threatened." Science Officer Hyun joined them on the platform, her expression grave. "Most concerning of all," she added, "they form social bonds with other predator species. They've domesticated pack hunters and use them as companions." The holographic display showed humans living alongside creatures called dogs and cats, predators that humans had selectively bred over generations. "They take apex predators into their homes," Hyun explained. "These animals, descended from wolves and big cats, protect humans and hunt alongside them. They've created alliances with natural enemies." One video showed a blind human walking confidently through a busy city, guided by a dog. Another showed humans using dogs to track and hunt other animals. "Their relationship with these creatures isn't one of master and slave," continued Hyun. "The bond is emotional. They consider these predators part of their family units." The council chamber had grown completely silent. Every officer was trying to process what these revelations meant for their invasion plans. Admiral Tay let the information sink in before continuing. "There's more. Humans have an unusual social structure that makes them particularly dangerous. When threatened, they form tight-knit groups and fight with coordinated tactics." The screen showed historical footage of human warfare. Despite their primitive weapons, their strategy and determination were clearly evident. "They don't surrender when outmatched," explained Tay. "They adapt. They improvise. And most concerning, they seem to become more dangerous when their situation appears hopeless." An older officer with battle decorations covering his uniform stood up. "Admiral, with respect, we still have superior technology. Our weapons could destroy their major cities from orbit." "Yes," agreed Tay. "We could win a conventional war. But at what cost? Our models predict that even if we destroyed 90% of their population centers, the survivors would continue fighting indefinitely." He brought up a final set of images: humans rebuilding after natural disasters, humans surviving in wilderness areas with minimal equipment, humans adapting to every conceivable environment on their planet. "The invasion cannot proceed," declared Admiral Tay, his voice firm. "A species that evolved to thrive in conditions that would kill most sentient beings, that forms alliances with other predators, and that seeks out danger for enjoyment would be impossible to subjugate." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. In the Dominion's long history of conquest, they had never abandoned a planned invasion. "What do you propose instead, Admiral?" asked the fleet commander finally. "We withdraw," Tay replied simply. "We establish a quarantine perimeter around their solar system. We monitor, but we do not engage. And we classify humans as what? Asked Hyun. Admiral Tay looked once more at the image of Earth rotating peacefully on the screen. We classify them as what they are, Deathworlders. A species too dangerous to fight, too unpredictable to control, and too valuable to destroy. 3 days later, the massive engines of the Stellar Dominion fleet ignited. One by one, the warships activated their jump drives and disappeared into hyperspace, establishing monitoring stations at the edge of the solar system as they departed. Earth would remain untouched, not because humans were too weak to be worthy adversaries, but because they were too dangerous to engage. On the surface of the planet, a hiker packed up his campsite in the northern forest. His arm still bore the scars from his encounter with the bear 2 weeks ago. He took one last look around the clearing, breathed in the fresh morning air, and set off down the trail, completely unaware that his actions had just saved his entire species from alien invasion. The end.